Hello, everyone. Today I'm being so honored to speak with Kelly Sullivan Walden. That is an amazing dream expert and dream analyst and the author of so many books. And many of you, I'm sure, know her as Dr. Dream. She created many amazing oracle cards and courses, and she has hosted a show that I really love about daydreams and night dreams. And today I'm having an honor to talk to her about using the power of our dreams, the power of connection to overcome a crisis. And that's also a title of her newest book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. I hope I didn't miss any important part because Kelly has been doing so many amazing things. But if I did, I'm going to add in the show notes all the information about Kelly so you can read through it. But now giving mic to my wonderful guest. Welcome to Dreaming the Light. I'm so happy to have you here.
Joanna, thank you so much for having me. I really feel so honored, partly because of just your beautiful spirit and of course the theme, dreaming in the light and dreaming in light. And then where you are in the world right now, add that to it, and the crisis that's happening where you are. It feels like it's a beautiful blessing to get to be with you and to share whatever I've got with you. I feel like whatever I've got, it's yours. Take it, run, so let's hope it communicates. Thank you for inviting me. I feel really honored.
Thank you. And what I want to say before we dive deep into serious and maybe not so serious always stuff,
Right.
I just want to say that I love your energy and your light that you bring. And I really hope that whoever is going to be watching this or listening to it in the podcast platform is going to feel this energy and will be able to feel the light that comes from you. And also very interesting that tonight it is still somewhere a solar eclipse. So we are recording
in
this
real time.
episode. Yeah, exactly. During
in Los
eclipse.
Angeles, California, in the United States, it's happening like right now. I mean, they said it's between 12:15 and 12:30 p.m. So it's happening.
Yeah.
And we might see the light dim, and because I've got some natural light coming in here, so we may notice that or not. But it does feel sacred somehow that this is kind of a very bizarre time that doesn't come around too often, and interesting shifts seem to happen. I don't know if this is on topic or not, but I just wrote a piece that I'm going to hopefully publish at some point today about the Mandela effect. Are you familiar with that? Just kind of these, like this false memory phenomenon that seems to not be so false. It just means that there's sort of parallel realities and people remember different things based on what reality they're in. And apparently at CERN, there's this conductor, this powerful machine, powerful thing that happens and in the laboratory, and it happened on the last solar eclipse, and that's supposedly when a lot of these Mandela effects happen. So it's happening again today. Right now it's the afternoon for me. I know it's at night for you, but so there's different experiences happening, and it feels like it's very much related to the way that we dream and the way that our dreaming mind works, where it's different. There's always a little tinge of reality that shows up in our dream, like we're at school, we're at work, we're with our family. We might be doing an ordinary thing, shopping, gardening, but then a hippopotamus walks through or some strange thing walks through and we're like, what? Wait a minute, what? Anyway, so I feel like we're very much in a moment of intersection, whether people aren't, whether they're able to be with us in real time, virtually in some way, or they're going to listen or watch this after the fact. There's still shifting happening, and the veil between the waking dream and the sleeping nighttime dream, it's very thin. And even the veil that separates the here and the hereafter, it's very thin. So I see it as a great opportunity to be in this place of darkness, but to be the light that we seek.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
said so beautifully. And it made me think of how, even though in some parts of the world you can't see the eclipse,
Right.
energetically, it still affects you. So no matter where you are in the
Yes.
world,
Thank you.
it still
Exactly.
affects you. And it makes me think about our dreams and about our intention, and everything that happens around the world is that even if we are not directly, right, impacted
Yeah.
by something, or even if we are not the dreamer or of a certain dream, it still impacts all of us because we are all connected, whether we realize it or
Absolutely.
not, whether we can see it
Absolutely.
with our eyes or not.
Absolutely. 100%. For some reason, this is just kind of popping in to say, even though it may not have anything to do with dreams, although everything relates to dreams. But I was just speaking with a client the other day who is very much exhausted because she's trying to do so much. And I think we all relate to that, where there's so much to do in this world. So many fires to put out, whether in our family, whether in our own personal lives or our own professional lives. But then we look at the world and it's like, oh, I need to help. I need to make a difference. I need to do so much. There's not enough hours in the day. How can I even sleep? There's so much to do, so much to do, so much to do. And I was saying to her, because she's such a good person. She's that kind of person that we want to clone, like you. Like we wish there was so many. If there was more of you in the world, the world would be a better place, because everybody wants her, everybody needs her. Like when she's around, everything gets better. And she wants to be there for everyone. She wants to do everything, but she can't. And I thought it's it's like this on purpose. There's only one of you on purpose, because if we could clone you, if you could be everything to everybody all the time, then they would never learn how to do it for themselves. So I think about your dreaming in light, that it's like we've all had a glimpse of light. We've all had a great dream. Even if it was when we were children, we've all had some glimmer, either in our waking dream or in our sleeping dream, of something extraordinary. We've been in love. We've seen something beautiful, a beautiful sunset, a sunrise. We've all had some mystical moment, and all we need is one. So I was telling this person, imagine Jesus, like, because, she loves Jesus. I said, imagine if Jesus showed up and just walked by you one day and just gave you a wink, like just a wink. You would be like, oh my God, Jesus just winked at me.
Yes.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, that's all you'd need. You wouldn't need anything else. You wouldn't need him to come over in the morning and wake you up, make you oatmeal and tea and do yoga with you and lead you in a meditation and tell you about what your dreams meant. And then you would just need that one little glimmer, and you could ride on that wave for the rest of your life. So it's like that with dreams. I think in times of challenge and darkness, we're called to not just say, well, how come he's not here? How come she's not here? Or how come it's not easier? Or how come? It's like, you've already had that moment. It's your job to remember it and to grow it within you. So being the light is about remembering a moment of great light, your best moment of clarity, your best moment of being in love, your best moment of feeling seen and heard, your best moment in nature, whatever that was. Just take one moment of that and imagine that you're back in it, and imagine that you're steeping in it and allowing it to just marinate through your cells and your bones, and let that become your normal set point. As if you were getting that wink from Jesus, you're here to grow it. And so I always tell people, when there's a great dream that they've had and they wake up and they say, oh man, it was just a dream and it's over and I can't get back. I tried to go back to sleep and get back in it. I'm like, you don't need to do that. You don't need it. If you remember even a tiny bit of that, that's enough. That's enough. We just have to build a muscle around that, of being able to do it ourselves, to bring the light ourselves so that we grow it And then we become that way shower that does that can wink at other people. We don't have to do everything for everybody. We just show up. And maybe we don't even need to wink. We just need to be wherever we are and just think about the world and like wrap the world up in, and especially these areas, especially where you are, like to just wrap it up in our heart, to put it inside of us and treat it as if it's our own body, our own cells. And instead of hating it and wishing it was gone, just like filling it with so much love that there's a ceasefire within us. And at some point, the physical world does matriculate out and manifest or dreamifest in a way that reflects our inner state.
That is so true. And it makes me think about how, like, we probably all know it. And as you said, we all had those moments, right? Whether it's beautiful moments from our waking life or some extraordinary experience in our dreaming life. So we all had it, right? No matter what we
Yes.
face. Most of us, I believe, I want to say all, but let's say most of us had it.
Yeah.
But why do you think it is so hard to
Yeah.
cultivate it when the
Yeah.
tragedy hits? And if you could maybe
Right.
share some
Yeah.
story of yours, of your
Yes.
clients, because I
Yes.
feel like when we're talking about it now, it's like so obvious. But when
Yes.
we find ourselves in the eye of the hurricane,
Yes. Yes.
we can't see this light. It's just all darkness.
Right. Right. Well, I'll say this just, and then I'll share one of the stories that I talk about in my book. But if we didn't do any spiritual work, if we just were kind of on autopilot, it would be very natural for us to be in pure negativity most of the time,
Yeah.
because our survival brain, our limbic brain, our reptilian brain is focused for survival purposes on the negative. Our brain is not wired to make us happy and to make us illuminated and to make us wake up. Our dream is wired for survival. And it's a wonderful thing, because by focusing on the negative, it's as if we'll be able to spot it before it comes and we'll be able to survive better. And that's true to a certain degree. It's just that we, even if we're in a war, I mean, I know some people, I just remember during the Rodney King riots, which happened in Los Angeles in the 90s, then I was in the middle of it, where there was literally looting, there was gunshots, people's cars were getting broken into, the stores, everything was just a mess. And I remember there were people I knew that were in a spiritual community that would get into prayer and get wrapped up in their, like deliberately kind of padded up with spirituality and go into the riot to be of help and not add more chaos to the chaos, but to bring kind of like, if you want it, like if there's a dirty swimming pool, you can add like clean drops of water, and eventually it's the what's dirty at the bottom will rise up, and then you can skim it off the top. But so let me just go back for a second. So I was just sharing about this in my book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste. I wrote it partly because I'm an optimist. I tend to find the light at the end of the tunnel. Although I've had my bouts of depression, I've been suicidal in my life, and I think most of the time I'll give people advice, and they're saying, "It's easy for you, Kelly, because your life has been so easy." And I'm like, "Really? Take a look at my list." I call it my nitty gritty shitty list. I made a list of all the shitty things that have happened. And there's been a lot of deaths of my loved ones. I've been near raped and violated about 10 different times. I was manipulated by somebody that when I was in my early 20s and kind of coaxed into becoming a stripper, which became a huge source of shame for a year. And then all the years after that, I jumped off a cliff and landed on my back. I fell out of a hot air balloon in a wild animal park in the midst of wild animals. And then the biggest thing that was like my biggest heart wrench was the baby I was adopting that I had for 2 weeks, and I had to leave her because we were in a different state. And after I left, she died. She drowned in a bathtub. She was the caretaker who was taking care of her was on a cell phone call and left a little 6-month baby in the bathtub, and she drowned and died. And that was the most, it felt like all of my spiritual scaffolding that was holding me up. And I had so much scaffolding. I had so many years of spiritual work, but it all came down. It wasn't just the baby that died that I was so in love with and so prepared to have. It was God that died. It was my reason for being alive that died. It was loving this world that died. It was everything that was good died. And I went into such a dark place that I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, I did eventually get out of bed because I had to use the restroom, but it was like everything just was gone. And I could understand why so many people felt depressed. It was awful. And I tried to do all the things that I had done in the past to get myself back, and none of those things worked. And it wasn't until it was a couple weeks of like pure darkness, and then all of a sudden, somehow I stumbled on a video of Viktor Frankl from way back when. He wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning. He survived the Holocaust, was a philosopher, and I felt like he was speaking to me. All these years later, so many decades later, his work was the only work that touched my soul, because he had been through something so much more atrocious and horrific than what I went through, that I was going through. I felt like, oh my God, if he could go through this and come out of it with wisdom, then there's hope for me. So this is, in many ways, this is sort of where my OGLE formula came from, because it was in working with him. He said to make up a new story, but I'll share that the OGLE, I'll just say how, like, I'll kind of go in and out of order. I discovered this formula, or kind of uncovered it. This is kind of what I do to move through something difficult. So the O in OGLE. So first, let me just say OGLE is a funny word, because most people are like, isn't that bad? To ogle somebody is to not like honor their boundaries. It's to like really look at them. But I think we often want to turn away from the things that are difficult. And in some way, what we resist persists. So by turning away from it, it just grows bigger. But if we turn and look at it and just move toward it, it starts to, it's like that's one way of being able to shrink it or begin to have some mastery over it. So OGLE is an acronym, and the O stands for what's offensive. And I think O is kind of a perfect first letter, because it's kind of like the O of the pain, giving ourselves permission to just be human, to be not spiritually enlightened, but to be in victim mode, to be furious, to be hopeless, to be scared, to be jealous, to be mad, to be in all of that, all of the like all of the stuff that a lot of people on a spiritual path try to just pretend they don't have, or some people that go into it, they tend to get lost in it. And I tell people, if you know there's the next step, you're not going to get lost in the O. I'm one of those people. We could say that the world is divided into two categories: those who are way too easily in the what's offensive. They get really mad really fast, and they cry about their victimhood, and they stay in it, and they loop it. And then there are those that don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I'm fine. Yeah,
Exactly.
like,
You're right.
I'm okay, I'm fine. And then they kind of become robotic and a little bit dead, and there's not a whole lot of energy. I kind of naturally fall into that category in the past, where I was more like, don't want to feel it. I was afraid that if I did, it would engulf me. But I've found over the years that I have to go through it. Otherwise, it gets stuck and it becomes more of a monster than the thing I was avoiding. So the O is very important. We have to give ourselves permission to moan and groan and be in the oh. And we might need a friend, we might need a therapist, we might need support. I really love my journal to just be like, I am so angry, or I'm so hurt, or I'm so scared. Just my journal is my in the middle of the night. That's usually where I go. So permission to be in what's offensive. That's the O. It's a big one.
Yeah.
And when
Big
we
one.
feel like we've got most of it out, of course, it could go on forever. But we get to a place where we're like, okay, I mostly said it. I mostly got it out. Then we move to the G. It gets harder from here.
Well,
But the G it stands for what's good about it. So in the case of losing tendril was the baby. So what was offensive was it broke my heart, it broke my spirit. I didn't want to live anymore. I lost my faith. I lost so much. It was the most excruciating thing I had experienced up till there. And then what's good about it? At first, it's like nothing.
no,
Nothing's
yeah.
good. Nothing is good. It seems like it's sacrilegious to say that there's something good about somebody you love dying. But I forced myself to start to look at these things. Viktor Frankl said we have to make up a new meaning about what's happening in order to come our meanings make or break us. So if we're feeling broken, it's because we've created a meaning that is disempowering to us. So it's up to us to create a new meaning. So this is when I started to look for, okay, what could the meaning possibly be? So what could be good? I kind of immediately thought, well, what if Tendril, this little 6-month-old baby, what if she was an angel? And I had to just make it up. I had to sort of go
Yeah.
into fantasy land because I couldn't see anything in reality that was good.
Yeah.
But I said, well, what if she was an angel and she came to Earth for 6 months and she did everything that she needed to do in her 6 months and her contract was complete? Whereas most human angels, it takes them 90, 80 years to fulfill it. She was a quick one. So she did it all in 6 months. And I got to be a mother for 2 weeks. I got to be in a motherly capacity with her for 2 weeks, and she was an angel. Some people don't ever get to encounter an angel in their life, much less be the mother of an angel. So what if I'm lucky that I got that time as opposed to being unlucky that I didn't get even more time? So that was like, ooh, that shifted my brain. And like, I felt like I was all of a sudden like upside down, but I felt something snap in me. It was like, I stopped feeling the dread and the heaviness in that moment, just with that thought, And then I went, and then go to the L, the looking glass. And the looking glass is, how am I similar or just like the looking glass is the mirror. How am I like the thing that is so offensive? So what was offensive was that she died. So how have I died?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I could see all of these parts of me. I let them die. Ooh, so that's even in some way more offensive. Ooh, so and yet I had some choice in that. So there's always it's kind of a strange little, it's almost like doing drugs without need for drugs, doing this formula, because it's like, what? So yeah, I'm just, the moment that we see ourselves in the offensive behavior or in the offensive circumstance, we stop feeling separate from it. And the sneaky trick here is what's more offensive than anything is that feeling of separation. There's a they and there's a we, or there's a you and there's a me. And that's what breaks our hearts more than anything, feeling separate. The moment we feel unified, even with a behavior or a person that is difficult for us to love, we stop feeling so separate from them and we start to heal. And it happens almost instantly. So that's the L for the looking glass. And it takes some kind of courage. We can't, it's not easy. Not everybody's willing to do it. It's really hard to do. But when we can do it, even if it's just a speck, then things start to change. And then we are in a position to move to the E, which is elevate. Now that I know, now that I've given myself permission to be in the O, what's offensive, and I've looked for what's good or what could be good about this, and then I've seen a little drop of myself in the looking glass. Now, how can I elevate my situation? What can I do or what can I think about that will not waste this crisis, that will help to move me to another place up the mountaintop of my own evolution? So for me, I thought, well, Viktor Frankl said, the thoughts we think will make or break us. So I'm going to do my best to think this new thought about Tendril, that she was in fact an angel, and she was my angel, and she still is. And maybe that will elevate me. Maybe that was definitely a more elevated thought than the world sucks and I might as well die. So I'll choose the elevated one. Tendril's my angel, and I'm going to be with her. So, and I'm going to call her in. So that was my elevated thought. And that literally began to shift everything. So just as kind of an interesting confirmation, because I believe whenever we have a shift, the world responds in some way.
Yeah.
So it didn't bring Tendril back to life in the ordinary way. But I did start to hear, like so many people started to reach out. I started to hear the word tendril, which is a strange word. I mean, it means a connecting vine. But I got an email about a week later from a guy, random person found me online. He said, "Oh, you're Dr. Dream, so you might know the answer to this question. Do you know any Tibetan dream practices?" And I was almost going to just respond, "No, sorry, good luck."
Yeah.
But I thought, oh shit, I'm Dr. Dream. I should probably, let me do a little research and get back to him.
Maybe
So
there's something I can say.
Exactly. That's probably not very responsible of me. I'm like, darn it. So I did a little research and I found an article written by Robert Moss, who's a great dream scholar. And he wrote an article about Tendril and it's a Tibetan Buddhist yogic dream practice where you, before you go to sleep, it's kind of a lucid dreaming practice where you intend to create a connecting vine. It's called Tendril. There's a Tendril dreaming practice. I'm like, a dreaming practice called Tendril, and it's about connecting your waking self, even your physical body, before you go to sleep, to someone on the other side of the veil. So it's about connecting the living and the dead, the sleeping to the awakening, by imagining a tendril vine, and her name is Tendril. So I was like, it just blew my mind. And then I reached out to Robert Moss. I found him, he answered the phone. He and I had this hour-long conversation about all of this, and he became a wonderful mentor of mine. But I just thought, my God, what are the odds of that? This dreaming practice called Tendril. And so it's anyway, there's just so many things so there's healing here. So I'm going on and on here, but what I want to say is most of the stories in my book, A Crisis is the Terrible Thing to Waste, are very personal, and most of them are mine. There are some stories that relate to they all relate to somebody else as well, but what you're living in the midst of, Joanna, is a global situation, a war. And I might say, oh my God, how could this very personal theory or formula work on something so big? But elementary, like let's just say math, like 1 + 1 = 2, isn't invalidated by calculus. It's like the basic principles still apply. So I don't know. I think that if we all ogled the things that were upsetting us, we might become alchemists and we might approach things differently. So I want to pass it back to you.
Yes,
so how is all this landing on you based on where you are and what you're in the midst of?
Yeah, so actually, since the war started here, the first thing, the first thing was like fear and all those prime emotions, like what's gonna be. And then this question came to my mind, like, why am I here? Because I was not
Yes.
born here. I ended up here for various reasons, but I am here now and I
Yeah.
chose to be here. And I chose to be here during this time. And it was very interesting how my perspective shifted pretty immediately from, oh my God, poor me, I'm going to go back to my home country because it's so dangerous here and so on and so on, to something completely different.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. I do not believe in coincidence and I don't believe that things just happen. I do believe in an order, a cosmic order of life and things. And
Yes.
here I am in this place, on this land. So there must be a
Right.
reason. So this immediately shifted. It immediately took me from this place of victimhood, of this place of, oh my God, like what's going to happen to me, to something completely different. And then I started to think about, yeah, your method, like how you move through different stages and look from different perspectives, and how one can see, how one can look at things like a war, right? When
Yeah.
thousands people die,
Yeah.
when mothers lose children, children lose mothers, like it's I mean, every tragedy is tragedy, right? But the level of suffering, the
Yeah.
level of lives it touches, it's just like huge. So one would say, okay, there can't be anything good about it, right? It's
Right.
like, it's even, how can you even say that there can be something good about it? And this is what you said about coming from the point A of the big O, of the big pain, of the big, my own suffering, to maybe seeing what is good about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I was looking at it and when I was looking what's going around, it came to me that I'm actually seeing a lot of beautiful things happening on parallel. For example, how people unite in order to help others, how
Exactly.
people suddenly start giving away tons of things. And suddenly hit me, wow, there are there is enough of material goods for everyone, because people suddenly started to give away bags of clothes, of food, of everything, right? And then
Right.
suddenly I see therapist starts to give sessions for free to people that are
Yeah.
being affected. And then I see, and then I see, and then I see. And again, I won't say the war is good. It's never good. It's
No,
caused
no,
immense suffering. But I
you're right.
started to see other things that were happening on parallel that say, hey, maybe this will spark something in the humanity. Maybe we are
Exactly.
reaching such a bad place that from this terrible place, maybe only good can come because we go so low, right? And again,
Exactly.
it doesn't invalidate the suffering and it doesn't invalidate the death and the abuse that is happening, that happened and is continue happening on every side. But it's just like it took me to this place of what can I see, what as you said, this good that can come from it. And then the
Right.
next step was, okay, so how is this mirroring me? And I actually participated. I don't know if you are familiar with constellation work, like
Oh
family,
God, I
right?
am very much so.
So
Yeah.
we had met
Oh.
like a group to do a constellation work on the war. And
Oh wow.
yeah, that was very, very interesting experience.
Oh.
You know, during this process, I realized that every time that we have war within us, whether it's war of fighting with ourselves, whether it's abusing ourselves by having a bad talk towards ourselves, abusing
Right.
our diet,
Yes.
sleep, whatever we do that we hurt ourselves in a body or mind or
Yes.
spirit way, we are creating war. So
Yes.
as long as we create war inside of us, there will be war outside.
Right.
So this is the mirror part of your process. That's how my
Yes.
head was working.
Yeah. I just want to
And
say before you keep
yes,
going, I want to just say that there's a little kind of a caution around this because some people use that, and they think it's an opportunity to beat themselves up, like to say bad me, like bad, and it isn't. It's not to look for fault in you to add further shame. No, it's just to look for the place of your humanity that relates to that. Or if you walk 20 miles in that person's moccasins, if you were in the same circumstance, you might do the same thing. It's just about looking at the common humanity. So people resist the looking glass. They're like, no, I would never lie. I would never cheat. I would never steal. I would never hurt anybody. And I'm like,
Yes.
of course, you're a good person. You never would. But here's the thing, like, is there a circumstance in which you might steal, like in order to feed your family if they were starving? Might you steal in order to do something good? Like, it's conceivable that you might do these things. Maybe you wouldn't, but might you even think about it? So that's enough, even if it's just that little drop. And please don't beat yourself up while you're in the midst of that. Okay, back to you.
Yes, no, it's totally right what you said. In this process that I was doing with myself, it wasn't really the place, again, of victimhood. It was just this deep realization, as you said before, that yes, we are all connected and we all hold the parts of each other. And as you said, I cannot imagine myself taking a gun and shooting someone or taking someone hostage, right? But as you said, is there sometimes violence toward myself from the ways that I told you? Maybe why I just eat really badly for a week. So I'm harming myself. So there is harm. And again, not from the place of, it's very important what you said, so nobody will take it the wrong way. But once you are able to zoom out to this perspective, as you said, the separation starts to, the gap doesn't seem so big anymore.
Exactly. And it's kind of like in the way that when we want to get like when COVID happened and we got our, what are those called? The boosters, I can't even think of it. The shots to be able to inoculate ourselves. It's got a drop of the actual poison in it.
Yeah.
Which is so strange to think, wait, I'm going to take a little bit of poison and that's going to be good for me. It's like, but it is swallowing that bitter pill. The bitter pill is, I'm not just all the rosy parts of humanity. I am all of humanity is in me. I am like, even like all the colors of the rainbow, all of the colors in the paint box, all of the crayons. I am all of those. It doesn't mean that I am all darkness. It's just the ego wants to, a weak ego, an immature ego grabs onto, no, I'm perfect and you're the bad one and they made me do it. That is a sign of a very weak ego. But when we become more mature and we have a sense of our spiritual connection and we have enough self-love, we can say, oh, mea culpa. Oh yeah, I screwed up over there. And we still love ourselves. I still love myself. And yeah, oh my God, I forgot to do that thing. Oh my God, yeah, my bad. It's okay. You know, it's like we can only own our part when we have a little bit of confidence in the bigger world, which is why dreams are an important part of this conversation. Because even just having dreams be a backdrop here, it means there's a bigger reality going on than just this little moment of pain. Okay, back to you.
Yes, so beautifully said, really. And then coming to the last point, to the elevate, right? So for me personally, it was this understanding, right, that I can keep being in fear and focusing on all the horrific things that are happening, or as you said, I could focus on bringing more of the good, of embracing the good qualities that came out of people, of trying to bring more good, more light. And that's how this project was born, because I was scrolling through the social media and all I was seeing was hate. No, they are right. No, they are right. They did this, they did that. And I just couldn't, I just couldn't open my phone anymore, because they said, wow, everyone is marinating in this soup. And there is this division because there are some forces in the world that they want to divide us. They want us to keep fighting with each other, to underline our differences instead of what
Right.
unites us. So I said, okay,
Yes.
so maybe how can I come out of it is that I can just bring more light there
Exactly.
in a way that I can, in the capabilities I can. And this, I mean, I really hope that what I've been doing in the last few months, that it's really helping others, but it's also immensely helping me, because
Right.
I feel the empowerment instead of the victimhood. And
Right.
not, I really, again, don't want anyone to understand it the wrong way. I am not invalidating the pain. And I myself, I'm a
No.
very sensitive person, and I try not to see the news, but every time I see some news, my heart breaks and I
Yeah.
cry, and I just
Yeah.
can't comprehend so many things.
Right.
But I'm just choosing not to marinate in the soup all the time, because I
Exactly.
can't bring anything good to the world if it
Exactly.
takes just if it just destroys me. So then what's good of me left?
Oh my God, that is so, so, so true. Oh my God, that brings up so many other things. Oh my God, we need to talk for 5 hours. But it's so true, because if we think about, we're either on the side of the problem or the solution. There's no gray area. And to do our inner work, it puts us in the ability to have our heads above water so that we can have the wherewithal to help, to do something. And so it's not just about the inner work. It is, I think, so much about the inner work, but so that we can add when we do the outer work, when we go to bring clothes, when we go to donate money, when we go to show up in different places, we do so like those people, those friends of mine in the midst of the Rodney King riots,
Yeah.
that were able to be angels walking among the difficulty, so they were able to bring calm to the chaos. Otherwise, we are adding chaos to the chaos. One of the stories in my book, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, I talk about when I went to my friend, my best friend, she had to get a biopsy in her breast. She had a mass, and she asked me to come into the room when they were doing it to hold her feet. And I was holding her feet. Do you remember the story?
Yes, I'm smiling because I don't want to
God.
cry. But
So-
please go on.
so what they jabbed her with the biopsy needle in her breast, and it hit a nerve, and she like seized. She had this, and I felt it empathically, and I seized, and then I blacked out. And next thing I hear is the doctor saying, "Let her go, let go." And I'm like, what are they yelling about? And I realized they were yelling at me because I was holding onto her feet so tight. I was pulling her off the table. So this is toxic empathy, where you have empathy that isn't helping. It's making it worse. So in the end, she thanked me. Thank God she did. I didn't pull her all the way off the table, but it could have been way worse. She had this massive needle sticking out of her breast. I mean, it could have been so much worse. But she was grateful that I had the empathy, because it helped her on some level. So we can always find something good. But we do need to do our own work. And I wanted to acknowledge that one of the reasons why, like the O, when we get into the O, why it perpetuates, is it seductive? What bleeds leads. It's like, why on the news there's not often little cute puppies and pretty new flowers growing. It's like the limbic brain doesn't care about those lovely, sweet things. It wants the terror. It wants that because it thrives on it. And so that's why, so it's like, it's seductive. It's just like a seductive Don Juan that's like, come on, come on. And like, we fall into a spell. So we have to be aware of the seductive nature of that. And we have to then pull ourselves out. And this is just one kind of random thing and this is why dreams are an important part of this conversation. A friend of mine who was a psychotherapist said that in all of the clients that she saw over many, many years, she said, in one way, I could sum up the problem in one word. It's concrete. She said, when people become overly concrete, they they get such a density about them that they can't see the bigger picture. So if they're measuring things, if they're looking at, well, he did this to me, and therefore I have to, like, there's the tit for tat, an eye for an eye. It puts you into, and like, let's measure the land. I mean, so much of what's going on is about land and who owned it first and where.
Yes.
And if we're like, that's getting concrete. And of course, everything, we want to consider everything, but we also want to recognize that the solution doesn't live there. The
No.
solution is part of the dreaming mind, takes us into that larger perspective where all of a sudden we can see things from the big picture. We can see that, oh my God, there is no land division. We can see that we are one people. We can see that we are more united and more connected than we are separate. And paying attention to our dreams puts us in a more symbolic perspective. And it gets us out of the concrete. So when we talk about dreams or dream symbols or even imagining, like if everybody in this moment, I know we're at the end of our time, but maybe one thing that people can do is grab an image, a symbol, maybe something from their dream. It could be a mermaid. It could be a sunset. It could be a rainbow. It could be a big heart, a symbol that represents healing. And just by thinking of that symbol, like in this moment, I'm thinking of a hummingbird. For some reason, I'm just picturing a hummingbird. And by thinking about that symbol and by aligning with it and allowing that symbol to kind of come in through our mind and to take residence in our bodies and to kind of get into ourselves and then to be kind of a guiding light for us. It might seem very strange, like, what's this symbol going to teach us? But if we start thinking symbolically and paying attention to the symbol, whether it came from our dream or whether it comes from something that's important and sacred to us, we literally start to think differently and we make different choices. It puts us in touch with our prefrontal cortex, which is a better decision maker than this part of us that is more of that limbic brain. So it's a beautiful thing that you're doing. You are being the light in the midst of a dark time, and you're not being the light from an airy fairy place. You're being it from a grounded alchemist place. You're somebody who understands the pain. You're living in the midst of it. You're not denying it, but you're using it. You're alchemizing it, and you're turning it into something beautiful, personally inside your own body, collectively in your own group that is outside of you with the people that you do the constellation work with and all of this. And that does have a ripple effect out. And that is you being the change that you wish to see in this world. You are dreaming in the light. And I
Thank
so
you so much,
appreciate
Kelly.
Joanna.
Thank you so much. Really, I really hope that it can bring some beacon of lights to people that are really stuck in this in the first stage of dealing with the crisis, with the tragedy, because I feel that this is one of the most challenging part, is to be able to really move and like you said, not deny the pain, not try to avoid the feeling,
Right.
but just really, yes, feeling it and then deciding what you want to do with it.
And what if, just like when I couldn't figure out a good thing when I was dealing with the death of Tendril,
Yes.
like what if, we have to sometimes go into that what if, like what if there is an equal and opposite measure of miracle that is related to the level of the pain, the level of this war that's been going on for so long, and what's happened before it. There's a deep level of pain. And what if the miracle is going to be at the level of that? Like the miracle is always in proportion to the pain. So that miracle is going to be massive. And what if it is a miracle that we are to embody now? So there's something about that is like, wow, if we are capable of this much destruction, then we are also capable of this much connection and this much co-creation. So what if this is a springboard for this kind of awakening? What if that's what's going to happen in our lifetime? What if we don't have to know exactly how we get there? We don't. We just get a glimpse of it and let that inspire us and let that let that inform us. And then I think we can proceed and actually be dreaming in the light even while we're awake.
Oh, I couldn't imagine a better ending to our conversation. What you just said. What if, really, what if the miracle can be as big or bigger, much bigger than the level of suffering? And let's hold on to that and all believe in that. I do personally believe in that. I don't know how long it's going to take, but I do believe in that. So thank you so much, Kelly, for being here with me today, for taking the time to share your story. And could you just add, if anyone would like to get your book, get to know you more, schedule a dream session with you, where can they find you?
Of course. My website is kellysullivanwalden.com. And I offer a free OGLE worksheet. If you put your email address in, you get a free gift of that. And then you also get my Jet Set Dream Interpretation Formula as well. So this is a way to be able to work with your dreams to take it from something that's abstract into something that's meaningful and useful in your waking life. So that's a free offer. And on my website is all of my social media handles. I'm on Facebook at Kelly Sullivan Walden Dreams, Instagram Kelly S. Walden, and on TikTok Kelly Sullivan Wald, which is funny. And let's see, all the other places. But all my books, A Crisis is a Terrible Thing to Waste, is the audiobook is available for people that like to hear it. And it's the first one that I've had a chance to read. So I'm excited about that. It's available on all the places where you can buy a book, Amazon. You can get them. You can just go to my website, to the Sweet Dreams shop. That's where that is.
Thank you so much. And I will ask to what you said about the audiobook is that I got myself the audiobook. I love audiobooks, and you narrate it. I love, like, you're really telling the story. Sometimes when I hear audiobooks, when I listen to audiobooks, like the voice is very monotonous, like it's very serious and serious book, serious voice. Like, but you're really telling a story, and I just love it. So anyone who enjoys listening, I super recommend the audiobook.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. I'm really, really grateful.
And amazing. And maybe especially if you are going through a hard time, get yourself this book, because it's I don't know how you did it, but you're sharing so many hard stories, but yet I laughed so much.
I'm so glad. Oh my God, that makes my whole day. I know there is humor, strangely, in these. I mean, not in every moment, but it shows up.
Yes, it was amazing. So once again, Kelly, thank you so much for being here. And and I hope that whoever get to listen to this will laugh a little bit too.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so. We have to find a little bit of that, of humor around. I mean, it's all a big, being human is so silly sometimes and so sacred at the same time. But thank you for having me.